Welcome in, I'm Archers, and in this video we're going to be going over the new red-yellow Bonney leader from EBO4, which actually is part of the OP15 release. She's a 4-life leader that says on the opponent's turn, if you have 1 or less life cards, this leader gains 2,000 power, and then activate main once per turn, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 1,000 power during this turn. Then, if you have 2 or more life cards, you may add 1 card from the top of your life cards to your hand. Now, at first I thought that her leader abilities weren't quite that strong in comparison to some of the other leaders that we've seen come out in OP15, but with playtesting her a little bit more and overall with how the meta is shaping out to be a little bit more of an aggressive start, I think she's a very fine leader as far as how her defensive capabilities can carry her to some in-game scenarios that end up being in her favor. But before we go over the deck list and into any gameplay, if you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that sub and like button. It helps with the channel so much. Thank you all for the support. Additionally, if you'd like to talk about the One Piece card game outside of the YouTube comments, make sure to join the Discord community. The link for that is in the description below. So starting off with this leader, we're trying to be aggressive. Typically with this leader, I like to go first because you do have a very strong 1, 5, 7, 9 curve. And so we're starting off with the Jewelry Bonney Searcher, a playset of these. It's an on-play look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Egghead or Straw Hat Crew type card other than Bonney and add it to your hand, then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. We have quite a lot of Straw Hat Crew characters that we're looking to find with this. We also have a couple of Egghead characters that we can find as well. So this Bonney Searcher actually hits quite a lot, and we'll go over this as we go over the deck list. Next, I'm running 2 of the 2K Sanji that gives a Straw Hat Crew character unblockable if it has 6,000 power or more, and we have a couple of good targets with that with both the 7-cost Zoro and the 10-cost Luffy. So with this deck, you can push your opponent down to 0 pretty quickly, and at that point, you can close out games with this card. One of your strongest pieces that you're going to be searching for is the 7-cost 9,000 power Zoro, which came out in EBO4. It's an on-play up to one of your leaders gains plus 2,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn, and then activate main once per turn. If your opponent has a character with 8,000 power or more, this character gains Rush character during this turn. This is a new keyword that's been introduced into the game recently, and so this card will be able to attack into characters on the turn that it is played if your opponent has a character with 8,000 power or more on that side of the field. Otherwise, this does buff your leader by 2,000 power, and so if that means if you are at 1 life and you play this character on defense, you are a 9,000 power leader. This is a really great target for that 2K Sanji I was talking about because it has a base power of 9,000, so that's just a really good stat line just to hit evenly with. But if you want to add Dawn onto that after you've played the Sanji, this is going to be hitting upwards of like 17,000 power unblockable. I'm running one of the 10-cost Roger as an alt win con because if your opponent blockers up and you don't find your Sanji 2K counter, this will be able to at least push through for game most times. I'm also running a playset of the new 2-cost Sentomaru blocker. It says on block if you have 2 or less life cards, draw 1 card. So this essentially acts as an extra life because if you are down to that 2 or lower threshold, you block and you get a card in hand, which is almost like the same thing as having a 3rd life. Then I'm running a playset of the 4-cost Sanji from EBO4. It says when attacking, this character's base power becomes the same as your opponent's leader during this turn, and then on KO, if you have 2 or less life cards, play up to 1 yellow character card with 6,000 power or less from your hand. This is the best card to be playing down if you are going second, because on your 4-down turn, you throw this down, and then on the following turn, you start swinging in with this, and this is guaranteed to at least be able to swing upwards to, even if you're playing a Roger, for instance, 7,000 power, and then if your opponent wants to get rid of this, then they take the risk of you replacing it with another character in hand. You can also replace this card with itself because it doesn't specify non-Sanji. It just says a character with 6,000 power or less from hand. So if you want, you can replace this with itself, which is actually a pretty nice play. Then for 2Ks, I'm running a playset of Frankie. It's a 4-cost 5,000 power that says trigger, draw 1 card. Then if you have 1 or less life, play this card. So this fits really well into what your leader ability is trying to do. With this deck, you're trying to balance 1 life. And so, of course, if you do take a life and you go down to 1, and this is a trigger, you get to play a body for free and draw 1. If it's the last life, same thing. Otherwise, if it is a 4th or 3rd life, then you can just get that draw 1 trigger, or you can also just put it in your hand as a 2K. I'm running a playset of the Baby 5 2K counters. It says trigger if your leader is multicolored, draw 2 cards. I really like this card to be able to just dig further into the deck because of the fact that you don't have a lot of searchers. You only have a playset of the 1-cost Bonney. So being able to draw further into the deck is a much needed tool for Bonney. There are some other 2Ks you might want to consider outside of the ones I just talked about, and we'll go over that at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. But otherwise, I do really like our 2Ks for this deck. Then I'm running a playset of the new 5-cost 6,000 power Nami from EBO3. It says on play, give up to one of your rested Dawn cards to your leader. Then if your opponent has 3 or more life cards, your opponent adds 1 card from the top of their life cards to their hand. And then on KO, you may turn 1 card from the top of your life cards face up, and then play up to 1 character card with 6,000 power or less from your hand. So this is often going to be able to replace itself if your opponent chooses to swing into it. Oftentimes though, your opponent will just ignore this, and so you'll be able to get a free swing off every turn. And all of those swings are really going to add up over time, and eventually your opponent will probably try to get rid of this, and by then you're you're usually at 1 or 2 life, meaning that if this does go down, you can bring out a Borsalino, a 5-cost 6,000 power blocker that says on play. If you have 2 or less life cards, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards. Great card overall. Understand why it's been pair banned with Quasar. In this deck, you could probably run Quasar and this overall because that's usually what yellow decks are doing anyway, but we've taken out Quasar, obviously, and Borsalino just as a blocker alone is really good. Being able to play this out off of the Nami is a very solid play. You can also play this off of the Sanji as well because it does hit that stipulation. And of course, when it does come out, you're able to heal and then additionally get a blocker. So this will help you prolong the game if you find yourself in a triple spot where maybe you took too much life and you're not comfortable being able to establish a big body without a huge crackback happening. Another way to heal up in this deck is the 7-cost 7,000 power Kuma. It's an on play if you have 2 or less life cards, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards, and then on KO, add up to 1 card from the top of your opponent's life cards to the owner's hand. So this is another body that your opponent is not going to want to swing into because it does the same thing as the Nami on play, except it has an on KO. So oftentimes this body will be ignored for the most part of the game. And what's really nice about this is that if you don't hit that 2 or less life card stipulation, maybe you're at 3 and you have this in your hand, you can always use your leader ability to then take a life. That's one of the things about this Bonney is that it is not easy to starve Bonney because if she wants to take life, she can. And so of course that is equaling a card draw. So if you are using this to be able to go down to 2 life, then heal back up, you got a card draw for free. So essentially this is just replacing itself as it gets played out. Then I'm running 3 of the 9-cost Bonney. As I said at the beginning, we're running very much of a 1, 5, 7, 9 curve. So this being a solid 9-cost option is of course why we have it in the deck. I have it at 3, which might be a little bit much, but I do like seeing this card to be able to really pressure my opponent down to a low life total or even 0 at that point. So this is really good. And of course the trigger being able to rest an opponent's character that is 7 cost or less if you have 1 or less life cards is pretty big, especially into metas where like 7-cost Sabo and Lucy is a very powerful card. Being able to rest that off of a trigger is impactful for what you're trying to do. Then I'm running a playset of the 10-cost 12,000 power EBO for Luffy. It says if you have 1 or less life cards, give this card in your hand -1 cost, and then on play you may trash 1 card from your hand. Your leader gains plus 2,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. Then this character gains blocker until the end of your opponent's next turn. So once again, just a great card that fits well into your leader synergy. You can, if you want, use your leader ability to go down to 1 life and then play this out for 9. So an additional way to be able to hit a 9 curve pretty easily. This is also a very strong card to be able to just protect yourself with because the turn it comes down, it gets that blocker. It doesn't have blocker after that, so you're more incentivized to use the blocker, obviously, the turn that you play it down. And then after that, it becomes a huge beat stick for the rest of the game and also a very prime target for the 2K Sanji to give this unblockable. Then for some events, I'm running the 1-cost Raw Heat Strike. It's a counter event that says up to 1 of your leader or character cards gains plus 2,000 power during this battle. Then if you have 1 or less life cards, give up to 1 of your opponent's leader or character cards minus 2,000 power during this turn. So obviously with our curve being very much on that 9, you'll have that 1 Dawn open for the end game, and usually with this in hand, you should be able to protect yourselves from multiple hits. And then finally, we're running 2 Raigo. I think this is one of the few leaders that this card is exceptional in. I think Enel being the other one. So this card, of course, KO up to 1 of your opponent's characters, regardless of cost, then trash from the top of your life cards until you have 1 card. So usually you're going to be at that 1 life threshold anyway, so you're able to just play this out and not have to worry about trashing any life. Of course, the trigger is also very nice as well, being able to KO up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost equal to or less than the total of you and your opponent's life cards. So if this does come out of life early from a trigger, you can usually be able to get rid of a body on the field for free. We don't have a lot of removal in this deck, so this is a very important piece for some of the top end your opponent might play, because of course when you are a 7,000 power or 9,000 power leader on defense, it means that all of the smaller bodies are pretty much null and void in their attacks, and the only thing that can really hurt you are going to be some of the taller characters in the game, and so being able to answer some of them with a Raigo is perfect. Overall, I'm really impressed with this leader with playtesting it for a little bit. I do really enjoy its playstyle being aggressive but also naturally defensive as the game goes on, and so I think it's hard for a lot of decks to break through because of the fact it just gets that plus 2,000 power on defense for free if you're at 1 life. Now this is not necessarily a deck that would be beginner friendly, because I think some of the times beginners might have difficulty going down to low life totals and balancing what they should be doing at those low life totals. But if you are rather experienced with the game, I would recommend picking this deck up and trying it out because I think it's a lot better than what people give it credit for. But with that all being said, let's take this list into the sim and see how it does. All right, gonna go into Lucy here. I want to take first just because I think I want to take away first from them. I think either way they're fine, first or second, but obviously my curve is a little bit better going first, so I'm gonna go ahead and play this Bonney out. Hand is really solid. We just filled out our curve perfectly because now we have a 5, 7, 9. On our next turn, what we can do is either swing 5 with leader and 5 with the Bonney on the field, or just go really big with an 8. I'm more inclined to go 5, 5 and see if I can get some cards out of hand from them. They have memento, which means they found Cavendish, so they have the memento into Cavendish. Really strong here. I'm going to go ahead and just swing 8 and punish them as much as possible, just to push them down to a low life total, although they do enjoy going down to like 2 life, and they're fine at that threshold. So this is probably just feeding into their game plan anyway. I'm not going to use my leader ability to take life. I'm going to just let them take my life instead for the most part. I don't want to go down too aggressively, down to 1, unless I really need to. Here comes down the Cavendish, of course. I don't have an answer for it, which is probably a good reason to run maybe a Zeus 2K to be able to answer things like Cavendish, but we'll allow it to live, I suppose. 5 into lead here. Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this. I'm not really inclined to, counter out of too much here. Going down to 1 is what I want to do. Baby 5 trigger is exactly what we want to see here. Nice little card draw. Being able to rip life with the Nami is pretty sweet here as well. So then we can swing 6 here, force them to give us a 2K because I don't think they want to go down to 1. So that's nice to see. Dropping a Leo. We're not really going to be able to remove the Cavendish anyway, so it's fine that they're dropping the 2K here. On this turn, they might play another Cavendish going to 4, but looks like they might, considering all things, yeah, putting a Dawn underneath the Rebecca. Both Rebeccas, they're just trying to protect this Cavendish overall. Swinging 7 into lead here, I'll gladly take this. And if they want to swing 6 into lead, I might be inclined to take that as well. Another baby 5 trigger, interesting. Looks like we almost stacked life if that was the case. Pitching a Hound Blaze, that's an interesting tech. I do like that. I haven't considered it overall. I wonder how it goes. We'll take that last life and go down to 2, just making it a little bit more difficult, or going down to 1, making it difficult for them to swing into a 2K leader. Let's go ahead and use our leader ability to minus the Cavendish by 1, and we'll swing 6 into 5. They might be forced to block here, but they have a lot of cards in hand as well, looking like, 10 at this point? It's pretty insane. So yeah, we'll go ahead and then swing. I'm going to swing 5 here. I don't know if this is the right play. I'm considering healing with Akuma. I'm also considering just playing a Zoro and having a pretty big body this next turn, but I think healing is probably the better choice for now. And then we can get that rush character for the next turn when they probably are going to play a Sabo this turn overall. There is the Sabo. Makes sense. Thought so. They're going to go ahead and use a Fire Fist to reduce the Kuma, opting to not use the effect because they don't want to take a life. Pretty smart, I would say, on their part. We'll take this 7 into 5. And then I think if they're going to go ahead, another baby 5, insane. We've gotten 3 baby 5 triggers there. We'll go ahead and give them a 2K here just to stay at 1. This is nice to be able to just give them that final baby 5, show that there's no more. They don't feel like we're cheating too much if that was the case. Them pitching a Rogers is a little suspicious because I would figure they'd want to keep this up. But that's fine. We'll go ahead and then just play our 10 cost here. I think is going to be the best thing we can do. I was thinking about the 7 cost Zoro, but I think this 9 cost Luffy, or 10 cost Luffy rather, is pretty solid. We'll swing 6 into 5. This one will probably be met with a 2K. And then we'll swing 7 into 5, and this one will probably be blocked by the Sabo. Yeah, it is what it is, but that's fine. We're still just trying to pressure where we can, and then this next turn maybe we'll be able to, I don't know, swing with our Luffy, Kuma, and Nami, but I'm not too comfortable with that if they have another Fire Fist off this Sabo. There's another Fire Fist. Probably going to reduce the Luffy, yeah, down to a 4,000 power blocker. Now, if they have the other Fire Fist, the 2-cost Fire Fist, we would be a little bit in trouble. Looks like they are playing a Rebecca. They still have an option to play the 2-cost Fire Fist if they have it. Grabbing a Bari pistol is pretty good for them to be able to bottom the Nami. They don't have the other one, so they cannot KO this Luffy this turn, which is really good for us. If they were able to, then we would be in a lot of trouble. They're going to go 6 in the lead. They don't want to give me anything off the Nami, which I understand. They're just trying to get the card draw going with the Cavendish, which is fine for me because it means that I can swing into it this next turn. I think our best bet would be to play out the 7-cost Zoro at this point and buff our leader again. I don't think the Bonney is necessarily great here, the 9-cost Bonney, so we'll see what we draw into, but I'm more inclined to play out the 7-cost Zoro. 8 into lead here. They're probably going to use their leader ability to pitch 1 card to make them a 9K leader, so I'm going to go ahead and just give him a Sanji because I don't really think I'm going to ever play that card in this matchup. And then here, what we can do is just go ahead and then play out the Zoro. We'll give our leader +2, minus 1,000 to the Cavendish, and then we're just going to pressure this Cavendish down. I want to leave 1 open for the counter event, and I want to leave 2 for the Sentomaru blocker. So we'll go ahead and swing 7 into 5, they go ahead and block that one. 7 into 5, they might block this one again. I would imagine they're probably going to block it again. That's fine. We'll go ahead and swing 7 into 5 then if they're going to keep blocking. Let's see if they do another free block here. They could. They will. And then we're going to go ahead and give this rush character and swing 9 into 5 and hopefully get the Cavendish off the field and prevent them from drawing any further. Still really good that they got a lot of value off of that. We'll go ahead and play this in tomorrow and hold on to the counter event for another day because I think it's more important to pressure the Cavendish down instead. So here is their third Sabo, which, I mean, it's understandable with this deck that you're going to be playing a lot of Sabos. You're going to be finding them with all the pieces that you have and all the card draw you have. So down comes another Fire Fist, though, which is at their third Sabo, third Fire Fist. Pretty good value overall. Putting it down underneath the Rebecca, and then they're going to swing 9 with Leader, and they might pressure a little bit more with the Sabo. I don't know if they want to swing into the Zoro. I would probably swing into the Zoro if I were them, just because it's the same thing as swinging into my Leader, but maybe they're trying to push me down to 0 because I have, I don't know, maybe a way to, maybe they have like another Roger in hand. Another Zoro is really good here, actually. Let's go ahead and just do that, and let's reduce this rested Sabo by 1,000. I might want to turn my attention into it. I will with the one Zoro, of course, but let's go ahead and just swing Leader and see what they do. See if we can get any free blocks or any counter out of hand instead, and then we can turn our attention to something else if that's the case. They'll go and give us a counter there. We'll swing 7 into 5. This one obviously would be like a stage and maybe a 1K, or it could be a 2K, 1K. Their hand, it's hard to read at this point. Free block is also an option. Let's go ahead and, I was thinking about swinging this Luffy, but I'm just going to swing 7 into 5 here. I might want to turn my attention and swing the Luffy with like just 5 into 5, just to see if I can get another card out of hand. Okay, well, if that's the case, we're going to go ahead and just swing 10 into 8 and see if we can get this card off the field. They give us a Bari Bari pistol with their stage and assumably a 1K here. A 2K, that's good to see. And then we're going to go another 10 into 8. This one will probably be blocked by the Rebecca, as expected. And we have the Raw Heat Strike to be able... Down comes their fourth Sabo, okay, and their fourth Fire Fist. Okay, wow. They definitely saw exactly what they needed, which... That's, you know, Lucy for you. So we're in a pretty good state still. Unfortunate that our Luffy has not been able to attack the entire time it's been on the field. It's just been sitting here. So unlucky. With this, if they're going to go into lead, they're going to go into the Zoro here. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go ahead and just like counter out of this one, which means 2 cards out of hand. I'm going to go ahead and use the Raw Heat Strike. Plus 2,000, minus 2,000 to another one, just to kind of prevent them from doing anything, and then drop the Nami, because I think that's the one card that we don't necessarily need right now. If they want to swing more blockers, perfect. They decide not to. I think that they're probably a little bit worried about what I could potentially do here. So let's go ahead and swing 6 into 5. I'm just going to swing like base numbers where I can, because I want to be able to see if I can get any free blocks off of them. They're going to go ahead and use their stage, pitching a Memento. Another 7 into 5. This could probably be a free block, but if they free block now, then that means I'm going to turn my attention into a blocker eventually, which I think is a pretty good thing for me. Let's go ahead and minus this, and let's start swinging into... I'm considering swinging into this blocker. I think it might be good, because usually with Lucy, it's fine to swing into their characters because they don't have a lot of counter overall. I think I want to play over this Nami since they're obviously not wanting to swing into it. Grabbing that Luffy's pretty good here because we can play defensively for one more turn. Let's go ahead and play out this Luffy, get a blocker, and then give our leader plus 2,000, swing into their leader, see if we get another free block off of them. They go ahead and take that one. I don't know if they are going to have... Oh, Bari Bari Pistol is actually pretty good there to be able to bottom deck that last Luffy. Okay, let's turn our attention into their Sabo. We'll go 9 into 8. 9 into 8 again, and they give us a 2K. They might have another 2K. They're probably going to keep this alive if they can. They have the 2Ks necessary, and then we just need to make sure that we don't go down to 0 with them. Okay, they already spent their Dawn, so they don't have another Roger, at least in hand, if that's the case. And then here, we just have to make sure that we survive all of these hits, which... Starting off with a 9, we'll go ahead and give them a 1K Sanji or Borsellino. Sanji going to be the better bet here. And then we have 1 block with the Luffy. And then we have to just be able to get out of the rest of the hits here. So they're going to go 10. I am going to go ahead and... I think I want to go ahead and just... Considering blocking this one, but I could give them a 2K as well. If I block here, it might mean that they... Yeah, if I block here, it might mean they will swing with another blocker. Also, going down to 0 is not awful either. Let's go ahead and just give them a 2K here. Going down to 0 means if they leave any of these blockers standing upright, we can just play out Roger. Another 10 into 5. We'll go ahead and take this one because we have enough counter. And then, of course, I will go ahead and use that trigger to draw further. And then we have a 2 and a 1, and we should be able to close out the game on the crackback. Looks like they had a lot of ways to protect themselves if they wanted to, but I think that they were just trying to pressure the game there. One of the reasons why being a 9k leader is just so good on defense. Hard to break through for a lot of decks. Into Red Ring Luffy, I'm going to go first because I, once again, like our curve going first. Having a Bonney Searcher is a good reason to keep this hand. I think having the 10 cost Luffy's probably going to be our best option. I do like the 9 cost Bonney, but I think just having a 12k body is going to be able to pressure this Luffy down every turn, which is really nice. Hard for them to counter out of that every single turn once it hits the field. And hopefully we'll be down to 1 life to be able to play it on 9. If not, I'll just start using my leader ability to start taking life if that's the case. They searched out a Sanji and a Nami, so we at least know a little bit more of what they're trying to do with their curve. We'll swing 5 into lead here. Since they are tapped out, I'm inclined to swing with this Bonney 5-5 just to force them to take a life and then give us a counter as well. So it kind of just means that they lost a life for basically nothing. Then this turn, I would imagine it's probably an Usopp turn. Yeah, 5 into 5 means Usopp is probably the play they're making, meaning that they restand on at the end of the turn. Once again, though, they are not able to use their leader ability, so we are going to take advantage of this and try to get counter out of hand while we can. Nami is a great top deck, of course, being able to take that life and then force them to go down to 1 this early. Really good here. I think that they're probably fine for the rest of the game because now they can start using their leader ability comfortably. We'll go ahead and take the life. 3 of the 10 cost Luffy's is insane to be able to grab, so we'll be able to chain these out. We'll be down to 9 if they decide to swing the Usopp, of course. If not, we can just use our leader ability to be able to take that life. They do swing the Usopp. We'll take this, and now we are going to be at 1 life for at least a foreseeable future with 3 of the 7 cost Zoros, 3 of the 10 cost Luffy's. We're in a pretty good spot here. I think I want to go ahead and just play out the 7 cost Zoro. I'm swinging 6 into 4 here, see if they use their leader ability. They do. We'll swing 7 into 4 here, and they can just use their leader ability again. But now we are a 9,000 power leader on defense, and if they want to swing into this Nami, I'm happy with that. We'll let it go, because then what we can do is reestablish the 5 cost Nami or a 4 cost Sanji. Down comes a 6 cost Luffy with double attack, restanding all the Dawn, and then they're going to put Dawn underneath their leader. And then I would be, if I were them, I might actually want to just swing really big with maybe like the 5 cost Sanji, see if they can pressure me down to 0. If they do, it puts me in a weird spot because I don't have a healer right now. So we could be in a little bit of trouble, but I think they might want to just play it a little bit more safe. It depends. If they swing with the rest of their Dawn, which they are incentivized to do, because they can restand Dawn with the Usopp and the Sanji, then I could just give them a 2k if they go 10 with lead. If they want to give me a lot with the 5 cost Sanji, I'll just give them 1k here. We'll go ahead and pitch the Sanji because I don't really think there's a time to play this anymore, and it's not necessarily great in this matchup. Let's go ahead and swing 6 into 5. That means they'll probably give us a leader ability. Let's go the 9 cost Luffy. I say 9 cost, it's 10 cost or 9 cost. We'll go 7 into 5 here. This means either 2, yeah, I was going to say 2 from their leader, and then we'll go 7 or 9 into 5. This one, they're going to have to give us counter out of hand because they're not going to be able to just cleanly get out of this with their leader ability. So they could go leader ability plus 2 and 1. They could also go like Dead Man's Game plus a 2k. So there's a couple options for them to get out of that, but they will be able to okay, so it's a +3 with the Luffy event plus a 2k. So good to see that for us because we want to get cards out of their hand. It's kind of difficult in this matchup, of course. And then as we continue on, we will be able to establish these huge 12,000 power swings with blocker also. The only way for them to get past this is to really just Dead Man's Game it, rest it from there. The 4 cost Nami, which rests 2 8 cost or lower characters, isn't necessarily strong in this matchup. And also Luna isn't great either because of the fact that, well, I mean, they could keep the Nami and the Zoro rested, but I don't think that's what they really want to do here. They do play out a 7 cost Zoro of their own really good into this deck, or in their deck more specifically. They're going to go ahead and pressure. I'm going to block this one, and then if they want to swing into it again, I'll just give them a 1k. I don't want to drop the Borsalino just in case they want to swing into the Nami, but I might be inclined to do so just because it's like a clean counter. 9 into 9, we'll go ahead and give them a 1k there. Unfortunate, but it's fine. It will be okay because we got another one. Who would have guessed? Anyway, let's go ahead and swing. The best swings here are just start off with a 12 into 7, see what they do, because this will force them to react accordingly. If they don't, then we will be likely able to just jam really hard into them, like 19 into 7, although I don't necessarily recommend that. So yeah, I definitely don't recommend it now with the Charleston being able to restand a lot of Dawn. So we're just trying to pressure them down where we can. Another 9 into 7 means probably 2 out of their Dawn for leader ability. We'll go ahead and then play out the 10 cost Luffy and pitch. I think a 7 cost Zoro is fine because we have another one as a backup. We can swing 7 into 7 here. And then I might want to leave the Dawn open just in case we get a 1-cost event out of life. I also could swing the Nami, but there's not really a point because they're just going to use their leader ability anyway. So let's just play it a little bit more safe. And if they decide to really pressure us down here, okay, we'll give them a 1K. They're just pressuring the board. That's fine. It makes sense. That's what they should be doing, is pressuring the board, because pressuring the board is the same thing as pressuring my leader, but I'm more inclined to take a hit from my leader because of the fact that it gives me cards in hand. So that is a really good play on their part. Down comes a 5-cost Sanji. And they're just going to stack a lot of Dawn on their leader and swing 9 into lead. Okay, that's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and free block this one. And then at that point, they'll be able to restand 2 Dawn. They actually could probably go one more swing, but I think they want to have the maximum amount of Dawn at the end of the turn. Okay, they are going to be able to do one more swing here. That's actually really good from them. 9 into 9. I'm going to go ahead and take this one, and I think I should be able to close out the game based off of the amount of huge characters I have. They'll be able to restand 4, so they have 4 available to use. Let's start off with a 13 into 5, because this means that they'd have to go 7, 9, 11, 13 plus a 1K. Or if they have like a Charleston, that changes up the numbers just a little bit. But this is probably the best start swing, because if they take this one, then we are inclined to just swing really big with the 10-cost Luffy, the other one that we have. And then after that, we have all of the other hits with the Nami, the Bonney, and then, of course, the 7-cost Zoro. So 13 into 5 is really difficult for them to try to get out of. I mean, they can, but it means that they have to spend a lot of resources on. Opponent was in the think tank for a little bit, so they did use 2 of their Dawn plus a Charleston to be able to restand 3 of their Dawn, and then also be able to counter out of that. They have to give me one more 1K though, because this is a 13 to 13, one more 1K than Nami that we knew that they had outright. And then from here, if they do use their leader ability, it'd be 7, 9, 11, so, and then a 2K out of hand. So we could just swing this 12 into 5, and this should connect unless they have a 2K in hand, and at that point we should just be able to connect afterwards. So then we'll swing the rest on the Zoro and then close out the game from there. Ooh, Electrical Luna, really good trigger. We'll go ahead and then just swing 15 into 5 then if that's the case, and we should be able to close the game out here. Luna was a really good trigger, just resting one of my opponent's characters, or one of my characters, not my opponent, one of my characters instead. And that would have been devastating if they rested the 10-cost Luffy, but they were able to at least counter out of the first one so we could connect with the second. So yeah, just good pressure with big bodies is the way to close out against RG Luffy. Into Red Purple Roger, I don't think that this is a matchup we'll see too often, but I do want to test this out because I think they are a very aggressive leader once they get to their 10 Dawn, because of the fact that they are a 7K leader naturally. But I'm also a very nice tanky leader once I'm at 1 life. So I actually think that our leader abilities are probably counterintuitive to each other. I mean, at least this is better into mine because I have to be at 1 in order for this to be able to be applicable. So that's unfortunate. But anyway, let's go ahead and just not take life. Let's go ahead and play out the Sentomaru and pass from there. And then we can start establishing these 4-cost Sanjis. These will actually be really good in this matchup because once the Roger hits 10 Dawn and is a 7K leader, then we can start swinging with the Sanjis for 7 naturally. Raigo's also really good in this matchup to be able to answer one of their big bodies. Hopefully a Shanks comes down. I want to use it on a Shanks rather than like an 8-cost Roger. So we have to be a little bit patient and see what they do. They do take that 5. In the early game, early to mid game, you're just trying to swing 5s into the Roger and pressure them out of their hand size. You don't want to like give them... Honestly, you don't really want to swing too big to be able to force them to just take life anyway. You want to make it awkward for them to have to either give you counter or take life, because if they can give you counter early, then that means later that they won't have as much counter to be able to swing or counter out of. But that also means that they're going to be a 7K leader. So there's kind of like a flip side to what they're trying to do here. So pressuring 5 is usually just the best way to read them and force them into awkward situations. Here on 5 Dawn, or 6 Dawn for them rather, ideally for them, they're playing like a Douglas Bullet to be able to ramp up, and then they could probably swing for like another 8, but looks like we're going to take a 6 here, and I'm not entirely sure what they would have other than Douglas Bullet. Looks like it's to die for. Okay, that's interesting. Into a Baccarat. Okay, don't really see that, but I think Baccarat's not awful. Being able to pitch any card for, you know, counter is great. We'll swing 5 here. The Bonney being able to grab that 7-cost Zoro is really good for our next turn. Just a really good card in general overall. 5 into lead. Once again, we're just poking them down for 5s. If they want to get rid of this Sanji, which they might want to, they could be inclined to do so. That means that we will be able to replace it with another Sanji. This turn we'll also play another one as well. So we're going to just stack the board with these Sanjis, of course. Let's start off with a Bonney search, see what we can get. I think getting Borsalino is good to be able to have a blocker and heal. And then we'll go ahead and play out the Sanji. If we want, we can play out the Borsalino off of the Sanji. But I think we just want to replace the Sanji with the Sanji, just because I think it's a better card into the Roger leader overall. Now, on this turn, it's going to be interesting because they could go and play an 8-cost Rayleigh and rest the Sentomaru and just swing really big into my leader, or they might be inclined to swing into the Sanji. If they want to swing into the Sanji, I'm actually okay with letting it go. I want to keep the Sentomaru for a more impactful turn, because if they do play out a, let's say, a like 10-cost Shanks, I want to be able to protect something on the board if something is turned sideways. So I think that the Sentomaru is pretty important to hold on to. We might also just use it depending on how they swing overall, but let's just take a look first. 7-cost Zoro, I forgot about that card. I have one. Why wouldn't they have one? That's actually really good in this deck as well because of the fact that they will be buffed on this turn. 8 into 4, let's go ahead and just replace it with another Sanji. We're happy to let that happen. And then, yeah, opponent recognizes the absurdity of that card in this matchup specifically. And then this means that the Sanji is going to be able to swing for 7 just naturally, which is really huge here. We're also going to be able to swing with 7 for our leader, so we're going to be able to pressure them perfectly because we can play out trying into another of the Sanjis is really nice. Let's go ahead and just swing 7 into lead here. We could give the Zoro rush character, but there's no characters for us to swing into, so no real reason to do so. And then we will swing 7 with the 4-cost Sanji and then 8 with the other one. I think we'll be fine at 2 life here. So we could also use the Sentomaru if we really need to and we're feeling pressured. It just depends on what they do this next turn, of course. If they want to get rid of the Sanjis as well, we can replace it with the Borsalino and a Sanji. Our hand size will go down pretty small. Like, we'll be down to like 4 or 5 cards in hand, which hurts, but I think we'll be fine overall. And then we can go and swing, and like I said, 8 here. This is a plus 2,000, but we still want to make them use it. So I think swinging 8's fine here as well. It could be a brick out of hand, or they could just take this one. They do have a 2K to get out of it. So 5 in hand for Roger. I like seeing that because it means that it's going to be easier to close out games against them. This turn, they won't be able to play a 10 cost because they do still have to put the Dawn underneath their leader. Their ideal, I guess their play here would be like the 8 cost Roger so that they would be a buffed leader 2 turns in a row. And then they also have a 7 cost Zoro to be able to really just wreak havoc with. And we also are inclined to swing into the characters as well if we can use our leader ability and start swinging into the Zoro. I think that's pretty good. So 9, they're not opting to play anything first. I think they're just wanting to see what I do here. Let's go ahead and just... I kind of want to block this one just to be safe in case there is an 8-cost Rayleigh. It'd feel really bad to have it rested and then have to give them counter. Drawing is much better in my opinion here, and drawing into a 2K is really good too. So let's see what they do, of course. There's the Roger. Okay, good to see that. They're going to go probably into lead here. Yeah, 10 into 7. We'll use the trigger to draw 2. Another 2K to replace itself, and then a 9-cost Bonney is pretty good overall. Let's go ahead and then use our leader ability to minus the Zoro down to 8. What would I want to do here? I think it's fine to go ahead and just pressure the Zoro. So we'll go 9 into 8 because it's better to pressure the Zoro than it is to pressure the leader, because the leaders at 9 means less for them to have to give us in order to stay alive. And they might be inclined to actually take hits here because of the fact that they are at 2 life, 4 cards in hand. They just let that one go. I like seeing that. We'll go 9 into 9, and then we'll go another 9 into 9 with the 7-cost Zoro. And then what I will do here is I'll play out the 10-cost Luffy. And I think playing out the 10-cost Luffy to pitch... I think pitching... Let's see what they do here, though. Are they going to give us a 1K? It doesn't really matter. I guess we could play the Roger the next turn as well. We'll go ahead and play this 10 cost then. And then pitch, I think, the Nami, because it's probably the most useless card out of all of the cards we have here. All of them are really good. We want to keep these cards in hand for protection, and then also the 9-cost Bonney to potentially rip a life, close out the game. Or Roger if we go down to 0. It's something to keep in mind as well. We also have the Sanji unblockable. So we have a couple of options of things to do here. So really nice to see. On 10, though, usually 10 is going to be like a 10-cost Rush Shanks, which we have Raigo ready to go if that's the case. So we're in a really good spot. We just hope that at least the Zoro stays alive. If the Sanji stay alive as well, it's really good for us to be able to just continue the pressure. Just really showcasing why the Sanji's so strong in certain matchups. I think otherwise, this Sanji's, they're just okay. Here, they are going 7 into 3. We're going to let this one go. Obviously, we're not going to protect this one. I mean, we could block if we want to, but I think what we'll do is we will then use the Borsalino, because if they want to swing into the Zoro, I don't want that to happen. We are able to heal, which means our leader ability is kind of negated a little bit. We're only a 7K leader. They are going to swing 10 into 7. I'll like to take this one, of course. And then if they swing 12 into lead, I'm just going to block this one with the Borsalino. Okay, 12 into 8. I'm just going to block it with the Borsalino, get the block off. So we were able to get a card draw off of the Sanji instead of having to really lose anything in hand instead. We'll go ahead and get the Shanks off the field immediately and then start swinging into their leader. We'll go 7 into 7. I'll go 9 into 7 as well. See if they take this one. They might. If they take this one, then I will play out the 2-cost Sanji and give our Luffy... Oh, no. Oh, no. Let's go ahead and do it. I think we just ship it. I think we just play 4 cards in hand. We'll play out the 2K Sanji, give the Luffy unblockable, and then just go 14 into 7. And this one, it'd be like 9, 11, 13, 15. I have to drop every card in hand in order to get out of this. If they were all 2Ks, which... I mean, with the Baccarat ability is possible, but with the 0-cost event is not. So they did have a Rayleigh, so a good thing that we used the blocker while we did, or they might have drawn into it recently. But anyway, yeah, this is a matchup where those 4-cost Sanjis just really shined. Into Nami, I'm going to take first, although I think that second's better for them anyway, but like I've been saying, I think first is really good. I think our hand is really solid because we have the Nami on 5, we have the option of Bonney or the Luffy on 10, and we also have a Raigo for the time where they will potentially play a 10-cost Newgate, because they are running, I think, like 2 in the deck. I think I'm inclined to just swing 5 and get a leader ability out of them, because if they're pitching a Hogback, I don't want them to potentially get a trigger out of life. So this forces them to either pitch a card from hand for leader ability or take this and get a trigger. And I don't know if they want to take a life so early. Okay, we're good to see the Perona go out of their hand, and I'm okay with this. I'm actually okay with them not taking a life there. They're going to play a Kikunojo, use the girl ability to put Dawn underneath their Nami and swing 6 in the lead. I'll take this one. They'll get a card draw off of that. We're filling up our curve really nicely here. We'll go ahead and do a Nami and swing 6 into 5. We're just forcing him to use a leader ability here. Kikunojo out was nice. I'm going to go ahead and just use my leader ability to take a life here. The reason being is because if they have a 5-cost Nami, they're going to force me to take a life anyway. So I'm going to be taking the life and then also taking a hit. So if they go ahead and just swing into me with one of these, I will go to 7K as a leader. And we're not going to be taking life for free with the Nami. We'll just take it ourselves. So you can't do that to me. I'm going to do it to myself. And this next turn, what we could do is we could bait out their leader ability with a 5 swing to lead. And then turn our attention into the Kikunojo. I don't mind giving them a life back. Baby 5 is a nice trigger there. We'll go ahead and draw 2. Getting a 2K and a 1K, so good value overall. If they want to swing 7 into my leader or they want to swing 10 into my leader, be my guest. I can protect myself, but it's not going to be fun to protect myself here. Anyway, next turn though, like I said, we'll swing 5 based off of what we have in hand right now. Get their leader ability off the field, or out of the way rather, and then leader ability ourselves into the Kikunojo, and then swing 6 into 5, 6 into 7, which is great for us to be able to just like not have to dump any cards out of hand. Borsalino is interesting to see. Once again, I don't mind them having to go to like 4 life here. We'll swing 5 into lead. This could also be a free block if they want to, which then I would love to see, because then I can swing into the Borsalino. But this turn, I'm more inclined to just play out the 7-cost Zoro just to have a really big body. They're pitching one of the Newgates, meaning they might have another one. 6 into 6, I didn't use my leader ability. That's a mistake on my part, but they still let it go anyway, so good to see that. And then I'll go ahead and then play out the Zoro, so we're a 9K leader on defense. The only valid target for them to really swing into would be the 5-cost Nami. And if that's the case, we have a 5-cost Nami in hand to replace it with, and to be able to rip a life while also replacing it. 8-cost Moria comes down. A really good card overall. They're seeing a pretty good curve on their part. Other than the Borsalino, I feel like that was probably a little bit of a weak turn, which they might have had. Okay. Interesting. Let's go ahead and just play out the blocker. Luffy pitching the raw heat strike, because I don't really need a time to play it, or have a time to play it rather. 6 into 5. This one will be a leader ability, and then 7 into lead. 9 into... They're going to go ahead and take it. Okay, that's interesting to see. The Perona comes down. I'm going to go ahead and swing 7 into 5. I'm not worried about this Perona, because it's not going to be easily swingable for them, because they have to invest a lot of Dawn. And this next turn, I would imagine they're probably going to go ahead and just play a Newgate. We're going to minus the Borsalino just so they don't block 2K, 2K. So a little bit harder for them to do that. They're just going to block and lose it. Good to see that, because that means we can turn our attention into the Moria, because I imagine it's going to turn sideways this next turn, especially if they have a Newgate. They could have Newgate and then swing 12 with the Moria. And then I'd have to go... There he is. So they did have another one in hand, of course. Why else would they pitch the other one? You usually aren't pitching these in Nami because of the fact that it is just a strong card to establish. But we have an answer for it. We have the Raigo ready to go. So we have been able to find our curve and then establish some pretty good bodies. And then on top of that, we're going to be able to pressure them with this Raigo and then force them to give us cards for the Moria. I think here, any of these options are fine, but I think Nami's probably the one that I will be least likely to play in the foreseeable future. And if we need to replace the Nami with something, we can always just put a Sentomaru out on the field as well as a blocker. Not the best target, but it is an option. And then this next turn, like I said, we will go ahead and just Raigo. I want to go ahead and get cards out of their hand first, see if they free block. I don't think they will. I think they're going to want to give me cards instead because they're going to want to use their blocker for the 10-cost Luffy. So 5 in a lead, leader ability. They did have the Nami, as expected. We'll go 7 into lead. So this is going to be a 1K here. And then what we could do is we could Raigo and then pressure the Moria, like minus the Moria down. We can swing 13 into it. I want to just go ahead and see if I can guarantee to get it off the field. Swinging 9 into it is also an option, but I don't necessarily want to do that quite yet. We'll go ahead and minus, then go 13 into 9. And then we also have the option of going 11 into 9 if they do counter out of this one, which I don't see them countering out of this one because it is a lot of cards out of hand. And I don't think Nami is comfortable doing that. Good to see. We'll go 9 into lead here. This will be a 2 and a 1. They just take it. And then we'll play out the Sentomaru. So we are a 70,000 power leader. And then we have a blocker that will draw us. I don't imagine that the blocker will stay, though. They usually have ways to bounce it or get rid of it. So this would be a turn where they could go Nojiko, bounce it back to hand, and then I just kind of get a 1K back in hand, I suppose, which is fine. Not the worst thing overall. This next turn, what we can do instead of, answering their board, we can just go ahead and further progress our board with either a Bonney. 9-cost Bonney is pretty good as well, but I think another 10-cost Luffy is going to be our best play so that we can follow it up with a 9-cost Bonney, or we can also just pitch the 9-cost Bonney for the 10-cost Luffy. Gravity Blade is a play. It's not awful. It's not an awful play. I'm not saying it's a bad play. Getting rid of a blocker that draws me one, and then also the Nami that's been like poking him down every turn is pretty good. But I would rather them play a big body here if I were them, because of the fact that if they can establish something, then they're pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and take this one. We'll go ahead, and I think we hold on to the 2K here. I was going to play this out, but it's not going to get us much value. I don't want to go down to 0. That's the sad thing here, is because they do have an unblockable event that they could potentially have in their hand. So I am not really comfortable going down to 0. Although I could play out the 10-cost Luffy and then be a 9K leader and have all the 2Ks in hand. That's an option, but I think what's better for me, just to be safe overall, like if I was playing in a tournament, I would probably play the 7-cost Kuma into a 2-cost Sentomaru. Leave one open for a potential raw heat strike out of life. They're going to go ahead and take this, go down to 0. Let's go ahead and play out the Kuma, heal back up 1, and then play out the Sentomaru for a blocker. And then what we can do is if they heal, then we have the 9-cost Bonney to rip that life. If they play a blocker, we have the 2K Sanji. I don't think we're going to be able to play out the 10-cost Luffys anymore. I think the game is going to come to a close pretty soon. This turn for them, I would imagine, would have to be a heal. So like maybe double Borsalino. Could also be an 8-cost Moria to put something into life as well. And I think that either option is not going to win them the game. It's going to prolong the game for maybe a swing, but that's not really what they're trying to do. I think that they need to close out here, but they're not necessarily going to be able to because of the Sentomaru blocker. It's actually quite a pain. They're going to play out a girl, pitching out a Nico Robin, because at this point they can't even use the Nico Robin because they have to have a life in order to trash a life and then gain 2. You can't do it on 0, unfortunately, for them. That'd be really good if that was the case, though. So anyway, they're going to probably swing with the remaining Dawn to try to pressure me down. They have to establish a blocker. I would imagine that a Borsalino is their best bet, so 5, meaning that they could put 2 underneath the Nami and then swing 7 with the Nami and then like 8 with the Perona. Either way, though, it's not good enough to break through. We can just block one of these, and I think I might just go ahead and get the block out of the way so I'm not like going to give them counter. But I could also just go ahead and give them counter just to be safe as well. There's a couple things we could do here, and I think that's probably our best bet. It forces them to spend more Dawn to get rid of the Sentomaru if they need to get through. And I don't mind giving them a 2K here, especially a Frankie, because the Frankie, it's not really playable in this matchup. 9 into lead here. We'll go ahead and just block this one. Because, yeah, there's nothing else. I mean, with 3, what else could they have for as a blocker? They could have like a 3-cost Sanji, I think, the blue one. That is an option. That's also something to keep in mind. They do have unblockable with that. Not just the event, but they also have the Sanji blocker. Yeah, there he is. Speaking of the devil. So yeah, here what we could do is just bait out stuff. Swing 5 into lead, get their leader ability out of the way. This means 1 card at a hand. 7 into lead means another card at a hand. And then 9 into lead means 2. So we're able to get 4 cards at a hand, and then we can give our Luffy unblockable, because I imagine they're going to get rid of cards at hand to at least use the block on the 10 cost Luffy, which they're not going to be able to, because we'll go ahead and give it unblockable and swing 20 into lead, which should close out the game. We were really able to answer their board quite efficiently, which is funny because we're not a removal-based deck, but with Raigo, options are definitely there. I was really trying to find a purple Enel to play against because I actually think that Bonney is somewhat, I don't know if favored is the right word for that matchup, but as the matchup goes on, I think it's definitely one that you can turn around from. In the early game, obviously, you're going to be struggling with all of the 6k hits that are going to be coming your way, but once you hit that leader ability at 1 life and being a 7,000 power leader, it makes it a lot easier to be able to protect, and obviously with things like the 7 cost Zoro, being able to get that character rush and take care of the board, plus also then be a 9,000 leader on defense, might be worth checking into. But of course, right now, there's a little bit of a bug on the sim where you're trying to click into a purple Enel, for instance, and try to get into the game. Sometimes lobbies aren't loading, so I was unable to find a purple Enel to play against, but I do think that this matchup could go either way. That being said, as we saw in the other games, though, I think being a 9,000 power leader on defense is really strong. I wish that we were a 9,000 power leader on offense as well, but obviously you don't get everything you wish for there. But I think that this leader, like I said in the intro, is a very strong leader for this meta. I think it's probably a very solid high B, low A deck because of the fact that it just has really great tools, really great yellow good stuff. I think that all of the cards in the deck synergize really well with the leader ability, and with that, what more could you ask for? But with that in mind, there are a couple of changes you might want to make to the deck list. The most notable one for me would probably be changing one of the 2Ks to the Zeus 2K in yellow. Let's see if we can pull this up here. Yeah, so this Zeus 2K fits really well into what your leader ability is trying to do. Obviously, taking life and going down to 1 is what you're trying to do here. But being able to answer the board is also very important in some scenarios, especially if you're going against, like I said, purple Enel, where they do throw down the dog very early on. Being able to answer that with the Zeus is pretty important. So you might want to replace some of the 2Ks with the Zeus instead, one of them being the baby 5 maybe. I do like the card draw off the baby 5, but of course, this is very contingent on your luck. If you did get this out of life, then good for you, but you're not always guaranteed to have this as a trigger. And so if this is in your hand, this is probably a little bit better of a card than baby 5. So you might want to replace that instead. With this Frankie, though, I don't think I would want to replace the Frankie, and I don't think I'd want to replace the Sanji just because they are searchable 2Ks off the Bonney. This is a very important endgame piece, and this, of course, is just a really nice way to be able to search out a 2K or have a free body come out of life. The other thing I want to try out more of is adding in more Raigo. I do think that this card is very strong for this deck, and having 2 of them is not necessarily the best thing in my opinion because it's hard to find. I think it's one of those cards that if you have it in your hand at the opening, you might want to just keep that hand because of the fact that it could just answer anything down at 1. So I like Raigo. I might want to increase it to 3. You could look to decrease other things in the deck, maybe the Bonney down to 2 or something else for your choosing. Another 2K you might want to consider is the Pacifista 2K, which is a 1 cost 1,000 power 2K that says if you have a Bonney and you have 0 life cards, this character gains blocker. I don't like to run this because it's too much of a stipulation. You have to go down to 0, which sometimes that can be a little bit scary. Nowadays, with all of the amount of unblockable, this card sometimes just kind of doesn't do anything. Your opponent might also have a way to kill it or rest it. So I don't really like this card because I don't like the stipulation that you have to be at 0 life cards in order for this to be a blocker. But this is an option as well, so something to keep in mind. I'm pretty happy with how this list has turned out. I really like playing this deck. It's one of those decks that I think when I'm not trying hard with Lucy, I like to go back to have more fun with other decks. And this is one of those decks that is very fun and also very competitive. But let me know what you guys think about Bonney overall. Are you enjoying her playstyle? And if so, what additions have you made to the deck that maybe I didn't consider? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.